Hello.
How's it?
Good.
Your situation looks different.
Yeah, I'm in what we call the bonus room.
Ah,
Yeah, I'm usually in the basement, and my wife is up here. This is a room above the garage. But don't tell the tax assessor because this room doesn't exist.
oh, that's fair.
That's why we call it the bonus
Um,
room.
okay. No, we got him. Yeah. No, it's there. The room's there. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
We caught him.
Stuff.
We got him.
Hello.
We got him.
I
That
bad
sounds
'cause I
so
saw
ominous. You sign on, and you're like, all right, we got him now.
Yeah. I'm a little worried.
I saw Pilot like message and he's like, "Yeah, I'll be home exactly at 9." I was like, "Oh crap! I forgot that. I figured he would have figured that with World 8 we usually don't start until 10. I didn't even mention it."
I kind
then
of
he's
thought
like-
that, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah,
and
you
it worked
can-
out because this
Yeah.
was the slowest fucking pre-release I've ever been to.
I've been to some really brutally slow Magic ones, but that was a long time ago. People were like looking at each card, right?
So-
Like,
Yeah, there is a decent bit of that because it started at 2. It was scheduled to start at 2 for get your packs open, start to build. And we got started late. Each round went to time plus some, and it was just one guy working in the shop today. So anytime someone was up front, then he got slowed down on running the event. So, but yeah, 5 rounds.
so that's kind of not really on him though if he's running all over the place.
No, it was not. It was just a super slow event, and we also had there were 25, and probably half, if not slightly over, were kids or like brand new players, which is awesome to get them in there. It just took forever. But yeah, I sent that text saying, "Yeah, I'll be home right at 9 when the last round finished." And he was like, "Okay, yeah, let's group up to start doing prizing." When I sent the message at 9, that's when I got in my car to leave because he had to have a nice little be responsible adult chat to people.
What the heck is the Vine? Attack of the Vine? Is that what this was?
Yeah.
What is the Vine?
Lorcana. It is a made up thing for their universe.
Oh.
But it is the evil thing that is happening right now. So it's a fun theme set.
Don't they have enough like Disney stuff to pull from that they need to like make something up?
So a lot of times they try to tie it in. I don't remember if this one is or not. Because I think this is the end of a story arc. And I don't remember if it has like who is causing the vine to basically possess people. But it has been interesting because this set for Lorcana did very similar things to what this Hearthstone set did of, hey, what rules can we break and what weird things can we add in that make players think and do different things? So one of the big keywords in this is shift, where if you have a character at the same name, some of them can be played on top of them for a cheaper cost. So like you play a 7-drop for 5 on top of another character of the same name. They added a whole bunch of variants of it in this one that all have different names and all have different rules, like for how they interact with other cards already in the game. So there's like a 10-page document of here are all the things that need clarified now.
Rule breakers at some point too, because I was looking through the dollar bin, and I found that card. I was like, oh, I guess we all do rule breakers at some point.
Yes.
All right, you guys ready to talk a little Hearthstone?
Is Tito's mic weird to you as well?
A little bit. It sounds a little.
Okay.
Yeah, Tito, say a few things.
Say a few
like you're in
things.
the sewer system.
Okay.
It
right,
sounds like it's not grabbing the correct microphone.
See here.
What does it sound like? Yeah, it sounds like you're in a bucket or something. like a well. Like it's very deep and flat. Mostly flat. I'm trying to think of the waveform what that would look like.
That was a different Lorcana set.
Whispers of the Well. Oh yeah.
All right, is this better?
Say a few more things.
Say a few more things.
No, I think maybe you're getting over compressed here. Do you have some DS? You don't have any DSP running?
There's nothing different about what I normally do. All right.
Why don't you do a short recording for yourself and play it back? I mean, I would encourage that.
Hold on. I figured it out. Hold on.
Okay.
I believe you guys. And now we're better.
That's it. That's what it sounds like.
When doves cry?
There we go.
All right. You guys, so I'm sounding okay then? It's good to go? Are we good to go?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think you might have bumped yourself down when you fixed it.
Yeah, your volume's a little bit lower than Pilot to me, but
I think you turned it down when you're trying to figure it out, and then it stayed there.
No, actually, we are pretty much at our normal thing. But hold on. Okay, that better?
A little bit. Still sounds quiet.
Sounds quiet. I don't know why. I can't see any reason why that would be.
I don't know. Pilot, your opinion?
It sounds quieter to me. I thought that it was me at first, but I actually have my headphones louder than I normally do, so.
Oh, I can't hear you now. Okay, there you go. You finally tried turning it off and on again. Can't hear you, Tito.
Oh, he's back underwater.
Oh, I can't hear the underwater.
I hear random, it almost sounds like someone tapping a desk. Does this have all the names?
Oh, that.
And something I can read. It does. Sweet. I went to HS Guru to look up the playoff qualifiers, and there were some, and I'm like, I can't read this. Let's go to Twitter, and that normally has it.
Yeah, HS Guru actually has a very mediocre tournament. It's really good until you look at past tournaments, and then it's just here's all the players, and then you don't always get to. It's not easy to see who actually won the thing. He did a better job. He did a better job this time with the brackets, the top 8 brackets. But in the past, I've been okay, I know who's in the top 8, but
It shows it with the table, and you have to.
yeah. So I
It
do
makes
better.
sense. It's just you have to think, and sometimes I don't.
Well, you
like
know
to
who
do
should
that.
really be doing is the official Hearthstone website.
Well,
Should be doing all of that.
the qualifiers are at least on their official Twitter.
Yeah, I'm saying the website.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. Small company.
I was telling Tito I had yesterday or Friday, one of the days. It had to be yesterday because playoffs were yesterday. I was just jamming some games on my tablet in the morning, and I didn't
All right.
hear the ding, and I just looked and I'm like, hey, I have one spectator. Who is it? Oh, Big Banter Face. He was specking
yeah.
me in between rounds. I'm like, well, good thing I was playing really bad for a while.
Yeah,
All right.
that happened to me too. He randomly spectated me, and I was like, I did okay, then I did poorly, and then I got terrible luck, and I just like rage quit. So I don't know what that looked like to his stream, but it went from decent to bad to terrible.
Okay.
But
Okay,
like my
okay.
luck was awful. Yes, we can
Is
hear
this
you,
better?
Tito. Yes,
Are we
that's
good?
perfect. I
You're
don't know about
Alright.
perfect, but
you're
totally normal.
functioning.
Yeah.
All right. Then let's get started. Lower the volume here and. Welcome back to Bread and Butter, where we're serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement. This is episode 178, and as always, I am joined by Pilot. Pilot, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and as semi-always, we are joined by World 8. World 8, how are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
So, it's our first time talking to you in the new expansion. What have you been doing inside the Violet Hold?
Warp Tooth, some other things, and then more Warp Tooth. I kind of knew
Sounds
that
about
once I
right.
saw the card. So played a whole bunch of Dragon Warrior, played a whole bunch of Egg Warrior. But what I've really been having like a lot of fun in is in Wild. Because in Wild we get to still play with all of our Enrage's greatest hits. So, and there's a card some players may or may not remember. It's this 2 mana warrior minion that can become a copy of any other minion on the board. So the more
Mhm.
charged stuff you have in your deck, the more fun things are. Because you can do, because it also Hogger duplicates your patches. So you can go turn 1, risky skip, or it's like you know, turn 1 on the corner, turn 2. Risky skipper pulls out 2 patches of the pirates, and then you just need one other minion, and you've got 2 warp tooths on turn 1/turn 2, right? They go to town, and then you've got these other things that can buff your minions, like jam sessions and obviously depths, and then you clone them, and you can still play stuff like imbued axe. So mostly just having like a lot of fun with the deck in Wild. Wild has its own challenges right now. Mostly Godfrey is doing a lot of evil things there because people are just drawing their whole decks by turn 4. Because that's what that card lets you do, like without any hesitation. So there's just like a lot of warlocks in Wild. So there's a little bit of like class fatigue there. But they're kind of like doing three different things. But just like for other things that I've tried, foolishly tried Void Cell DH. Like I really pushed that quite a bit because I was looking at lists and I'm like, well, the tempo on these is all terrible. Maybe if we fix that, we can fix the deck. And not by like fix it, make it like tier 1. But if you remember like Asteroid Shaman, that's where I took a list that was like, okay, I like 22 of these 30 cards. And then that deck ended up going from like a 42% win rate to like a 50% win rate. And I consider that a huge success. Like one of my biggest deck building successes was bootstrapping that deck from like tier 4 to tier like 2. And that's what I really wanted to do with Void Souls. It's still not quite there yet, and I have some other ideas to play around with it, but kind of holding off on that until I stop seeing Shaman every game or Vanessa every other game, where I feel like the power level, like the tempo, is just too bad, and you're doing a lot of other things. Do you think I played a bunch of Egg Warlock too, so don't it wasn't just one flavor of egg. It was all the eggs. It was a whole buffet. There's also an egg DH now, or DK now. So you got lots of different ways to make an omelet here. So tried a whole bunch of stuff, but everything felt pretty low power level compared to the shaman. And then just out of frustration because I wasn't honestly doing great, I tried the shaman. One of my problems with these tier S decks, right? Because that's where the spell shaman landed. And by the way, I called it when we looked at that card on the show that overgrowth on one without playing any cards pretty good. Anyway, the deck's tier S right now, on like statistically. And so I play it, but I just get so bored with the mirrors. Like I'm like, this is a really good deck, but I just I'm I just don't like mirrors. So, no, we've done an episode of that in the past, but I'm like, I can queue other things. I don't have to queue this, and still do okay. So, kind of, it's that first week. Things got the balance team didn't hit it on the head. It's fine. It's understandable. So, kind of putting down the some of the stuff for now. We're gonna see where balance changes land. I'd be really surprised if Warp Tooth didn't get an adjustment. So I'm just having my fun with that card right now.
I keep running into Egg Warrior, and every time I run into Egg Warrior, I curse your name because, like, damn it, we're late. But I've also run into Egg Priest. There's been a lot of Egg Priest lately, which is weird. And I still wish, like, if there's one deck I thought would be interesting to have Egg in, we talked about this. And when you said DH by accident, you meant to say DK, but you said DH. I was like, oh, because I'm like, this one feels like there should be an Egg Demon Hunter, because you got all those, like, bring back your minions, the death rattle things, and all that synergy is be like eggs for days, but it's just the damaging the eggs and whatnot that we don't really have enough of. But no, every time I see an Egg Warrior, it's damn it, World 8. Pilot, what have you been doing inside of Hearthstone?
I've actually been jamming quite a few games, being part of the problem, playing a lot of the Mug Shaman just because it's good. And when I experiment with other stuff and get tired of losing, I just play that and win 8 in a row, and my rank shoots back up. I got back into top 1K for the first time in a while, and I hit a run yesterday. It's been very streaky for me. So I hit Legend like right after we finished recording last week. I just played a few games and did a win streak up to Legend, and then I lost like 10 in a row the next day, and I'm like, what happened? And then I gained, then I went like right from 1800 to 500 the next day. I'm like, this is odd. I just keep swinging back and forth, and that climb was with 2 or 3 different decks. So the Mug Shaman's been really solid, getting my games in it before something changes in that deck, because it is a beatable deck if you don't get high rolled out of your mind the first 4 turns. It's that, turn one, 3 drop into turn two, 4 drop that just annihilates anything that can't, scam it back. I did find some success at least keeping even with it, sometimes winning, sometimes losing because I got too confident, with Attack Druid, where Raichu and Coin Concede had shared a list that was running a card that was added to core that I didn't know what it was until I got it from Vanessa, of Savage Striker, to deal damage equal to your hero's attack. That way, you just play a bunch of attack buffs and then you kill all their big things that they randomly generated and then hit them for 7. And that feels good, and I've been winning with it. It's been a little bit streaky. It bricks every now and then, but it's got some interesting thing. It runs Gen because your only odd cards are Wave Shaping, Spiderling, and Emir Drasil. So often Gen is active. I coin innervated Gen on 2 yesterday. I told T I think no, I was on the play and I had Gen and 2 innervates in my mulligan. And I sent Tito a message on stream. I'm like, this is the best plan or the worst plan I've ever had. I'm not sure which it's going to be. But Gen on 2 is very, very good. I lucked out and got like a Spider Rider to draw the next turn, and you do some really goofy things. I played a turn 3 Wicker Fang and still got steamrolled because of Shaman shenanigans or Vanessa shenanigans, one of the two. Um, but it's been fun. It's been an enjoyable change of pace, and it has some legs in the meta. Just because you gain enough armor to get through the Shaman. I have had some games. I went on a win streak yesterday where for a while, like I had like a bunch of wins and I lost two where they're just utter high rolls. Like there were 12/12s of stats in turn two or whatever stupid thing happened in Shaman. And then I had I think it was Pizza that I played against and played, what was it? Two tripwires and drew three of the four by turn five, by the end of turn five. With two of them being drawn not from the weapon, just drew naturally top deck and did a bunch of damage to my face. So I did not out armor that. But it's been fun. It's been enjoyable. I'm interested to see what happens when we get the balance patch, but it definitely feels like there is some experimentation brewing right underneath the surface that if there's just some breathing room will allow that to happen, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean that sounds fun. And I haven't played your druid yet, but I will probably try it at some point. I so I started playing right off the bat. Started playing Ajara's druid, and I figured that was going to be my go-to for like whatever. And then I started playing pure paladin with bruisers, and that was a lot of fun, and we won a lot with that, so we stuck with it. It was one of those ones where it's like, well, I should switch to other decks, but I'm winning, so I'm just going to keep playing this, and that's what we used to get the legend, and it was fun. When that wasn't going so well, we switched over to Unholy Death Knight, which, spoiler, really still pretty good deck. And then I got a little creative one night, and I was like, all right, let's try something different, and I created a uh Maiev Paladin, where instead of the bruisers and being pure, we focused on Maiev and the hand buff stuff, where it's like the card that summons a copy of itself, or a dragon with the same stats and whatnot, and the taunt guy that gains extra +1/+1 for every time it gets statted or whatever. It was a lot of random stuff like that that hasn't really found a home yet, and it felt good in Miev. And even Ido of the Thresh fleet kind of slotted into that pretty nicely because you get Miev down and you get Ido down. Ido goes, um, they go, what do you call it? Dormant, so your opponent can't kill it next turn, and then the next turn you can give all your minions divine shields and +2 or however you want to work it. And all your the Maiev thing is nice because you can get down um, you know, uh Norsdormu or Torith or whatever like that, and your opponent can't take care of them that turn. And yeah, it's a little slow, so there's that problem. But if you're playing against something slower, you can really take advantage of it. So it's been a lot of fun, and I've been winning. Like not a ton, but it's not like a 20%, 30% deck. It's like a 45% deck, kind of, and I'm having fun with it.
I feel like this has
Um,
been the most like on brand what we've been playing section that we've ever had of World A. It's just like, hey, I found the Enrage card and I've been playing that. I found this weird deck that no one's playing that's winning and doing well with. And Tito's like, hey, I took a good deck and I put weird cards in it and it's still working somehow. It's like
well,
spot on, straight down.
and I had a matchup. I had one matchup where it was my deck versus it was Maiev Paladin versus Mill Paladin, where they had 10 of the Murlocs there, the prize vendors. And I know Funky's been playing a Doomsayer Paladin, which another interesting option there. So yeah, I just kind of like the idea of, hey, you're not just limited to that, and it's just fun.
I,
But
I
then,
love how
oh,
you've neglected the weirdest card that you put in there.
which was the weirdest card I put in there?
Chromatus, the
Oh,
Colossal.
okay, but it's actually worked out okay. Because so my thought with Chromatus was, hey, you know what? You play Chromatus, it gets all the stats, and then it goes dormant. So that for the death rattles of all the tentacles don't subtract from Chromatus. So then you have Chromatus still there. So it's not, again, it's not, it's won me some games. I don't recommend it. Like unless you're like, this is not how to get better at the game is playing this. But
You
and
can
then I had
also
a
do that by having three board slots taken. I don't remember who was talking about it, but it's like 2 days before you talked about it. It's just like no one's ever thought of this, and it was someone talking about it. Might have been Blister Guy on Walk to Work of the taunt um, appendage is always the last one. So you
ah
can summon it with 3 and you won't get the taunt, so they have to swing into the main body first, no matter what. Because
no,
they can't get rid of it.
I like it. I like it. That makes sense. But no, it's been fun. And then I did have a little bit of non-success last night or the night before. It was last night. And he ran into I think too many shamans and whatnot. So then we switched over to the Azara's Druid again and won a few games, quite a few games with that. So we're back. We're hovering around 4,500, which I would say isn't too bad given the fact that I've played an extensive amount of a deck called Maiev Paladin. So yeah, but, World 8, what have you been doing outside of the game?
Outside the game, it's just been kind of typical summer right now. Work, but the boys have different summer camps and also kind of going to the beach a little bit, but the beach weather has been awful when we have been going. So it's just kind of like nominally doing summer things, but the weather's been so wonky. Not too much going on, but still taking a little bit of time right now, some downtime to do some light cleaning in the house, which is not very exciting, but it is a little cathartic every once in a while.
Mhm.
And I've been putting this off for 8 months, 10 months. I finally cleaned out, just a chunk of the basement. I'm like, all right, I feel good about this. I only have like 10 more of these chunks to go. So yeah,
Yeah.
not too much to be honest.
Those chunks never go you think you only have 10 things to do, but, it never ends. There's always something. There's always more. So, but you'll get
Cleaning
there.
is just moving
Pilot.
stuff to a different spot, isn't it? Like it's just eternally moving stuff to a different closet hidden away until, you know, forever.
And sometimes you gotta move things from one room to another while you're painting or getting new furniture or whatever like that. Like, yeah, that can, not be good. But Pilot, what have you been up to besides probably not cleaning?
Again, not cleaning because I haven't been home, or when I've been home, I've either been too tired because it is band had started for us. We had our percussion camp this week to get them going, as well as our new member camp for first year members, and have a really good start with that. We start our full band camp this week, and hoping to be outside in non-smoky wildfire air. We'll see how that goes because it was bad last Thursday and Friday. We're not even in the worst part of it, but I know the city is like half an hour to an hour away from me. We're in the top 5 of worst air quality in the US. It's not great. Like we went outside to fold up a tarp that we'd use to cover stuff up for the summer for like painting and maintenance, and like just that was enough to be like, yeah, I'm done with outdoors today. So we'll see what happens. We'll push through and figure it out. Haven't been playing too many other games, just kind of jamming. Slay the Spire's kind of been the other game I've been playing the most of, just because I'm normally, just get a run in, before going to bed or whatever. Slowly getting the different builds figured out in that game. I'm still really enjoying the couple new classes that they added in or characters, especially the Necromancer one. There's some really funky builds with that. I had a really fun build built around cards that if you don't play them, they're like eternally discarded. They're discarded from your deck. And you can't use them. So had a lot of synergies with that, and most of them were kind of overpowered because you have to use them, and that's kind of the downside of if you don't have the energy to play them, then they disappear. So was doing really really well with that. And then it was Lorcana pre-release weekend, so played on Friday, and I played today. Had a good time, even if today took 3 hours longer than I expected it to, and it probably should have, but always a good time to go in blind and play some sealed and build decks of random stuff, especially because the set has a lot of interesting mechanics. I was talking with Tito and World 8 before the show about how, it feels like Lorcana's the set followed the Hearthstone set of how many different weird things can we add in that break the general rules, most of them being built around shift, which is a keyword, where you have characters that can shift onto characters of the same name for a cheaper cost. So you can play like a 8 cost for 5 or something like that. And typically it has like a character of the 1 cost below. There's a bunch of they added a bunch of weird shifts, including being able to shift onto 2 characters or having to shift onto 2 characters. And if you do that, it costs 0 instead of a 7, which is what the cost of it is. There's just a lot of potentially busted combos that I'm interested in finding. That do not work in sealed because you don't get enough of the cards. I had one that I really wanted to play that I opened. And I'm like, I can't put enough of the cards that benefit from this in my deck to justify it, but I really, really wanted to. So been enjoying that. I have my other packs to open still, but I still haven't finished organizing the last set, so I couldn't open a bunch more packs and make even more of a mess. So that's what I'm going to do after Bandcamp this week, hopefully.
Yeah, you were saying like, hey, I don't have enough. I haven't even got to the last set. I can't buy a new set now.
Yeah. I moved them out of the way. So they're no longer on my desk. They're in boxes. They're not organized in those boxes, but they're not falling off of my desk every time the cat walks by.
Oh, that's fair.
So
So,
improvement.
so you do have cleaning. It's just you're cleaning decks, or
Yeah,
cleaning
yeah, yeah.
card sets. So for me last week we had take your child to work day. Actually, became change your family to work day or whatever. But I missed that change when I had already registered, so I wasn't able to bring more folks. But it was really really fun. So my kid stayed down here with me, and then we went over to the thing. And it wasn't like you hang out in your office and you have to entertain your kid. There was I work on basically a campus, and there's all kinds of different departments. And like there's one room where it's all like foamy, like it's all it's a sound room. And they had two speakers that were facing each other, and you would walk until you get to a point where there was like no sound. It was really kind of weird because you get to like the right to the spot where they do that. And there was like a wind tunnel that made no noise. And there was one chemistry thing where he was like, it's not really something on my list. I'm like, trust me, you're gonna want to see this. And they did all kinds of stuff with the chemistry stuff, and that was really interesting. And he get to meet some of the people I work with and all that. But it was a super fun event. So we did that, and then we had my grandson this weekend, and we took them to our local comic shops, or a couple of our local comic shops. And my wife's been kind of into. She doesn't play Lorcana, but she's been starting to collect Lorcana, and she nabbed one of the chase cards. She got Best Buddies, which is apparently
Woody and
selling somewhere.
Buzz.
Woody and Buzz selling for somewhere between 500 and 1,000 right now, so she is super excited about that. And then I was
It's a
looking
sweet card.
for. So I haven't played Magic really in a long time, but I have a commander deck that I got for Father's Day, and I'm going to play that. But there's a card that I was looking for to add to it called Math Mathemagics or something, and it's basically it's like almost factorial or something like that, where it's like you draw X to the N card or something like that. So it's an interesting card, especially in the deck that I have, which is kind of a lot of that kind of mathy stuff. So I was looking for that, and I bought a couple packs. Nothing exciting, but then I came home like I probably should play some Magic. So I reloaded the arena onto my system, and I started playing that. I played quite a bit yesterday, and I played quite a bit today. And it's not like, so with Hearthstone, if you're playing, you can be like, all right, if you're not worried about like, min maxing everything and winning necessarily, you can like play Hearthstone, or you can play Battlegrounds, and you can like fold clothes or hang stuff up or organize. You can't do that with Magic Arena, because every other thing, it's like, do you want to do this? Do you want to counter? Do you want to adjust? Do you want to respond to this? And it's like, so with Hearthstone, you have like, hey, it's your 2 minutes, and then it's their 2 minutes, and it's your 2 minutes, and it's their 2 minutes. But with Magic, you can't get away with trying to do something. So we've talked about focusing on like getting rid of distractions, and focusing on these things. And I intentionally was trying to get stuff done. Not I wasn't like normal ADHD stuff, like getting distracted. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna hang up some clothes, I'm gonna play some of this and whatever. But like if you are trying to focus and become a better Hearthstone player, I almost suggest playing some Magic the Gathering Arena and having to focus because you can't not focus on that game really. So just a thought. But anyway, I don't think we're here to talk about
Dude,
Magic. We're here to talk about
pl-
oh god.
I will say playing, paper for the first time since I was a kid with Lorcana, I took for granted how often Hearthstone just does the thing for you or like won't let you do anything until you do the thing that you have to do. The amount of missed triggers I've had, especially the toy deck that I was playing last set champs, because everything has a trigger. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm like, I can't
Yeah.
do this for much longer.
But Pilot, what do we got for news this week?
So I thought we were gonna have a light news week, and then we did not. Super did not. We did have a couple of events over the past week. There was an event hosted by Solary, which is a French Hearthstone team that kind of slid under the radar for a lot of people, to where everyone was just like, did they promote this somewhere? It was buried away in kind of the catch-up pack article that they did, but Solary hosted an event with some pros and content creators, to where they started on brand new accounts and used catch-up packs to build decks. The people who watched it, it sounds like it was a fun event to watch, and kind of see what they were able to do, and some creative deck building with the limited collections, to where John Bray was able to win that event. So which tracks with deck building. Um, so that was cast over on their channel, and then led into this weekend. Excuse
Well,
me, where
actually,
we
before
had.
before you
Oh,
before
go
you move
ahead.
on to that, there was something that did come up where so Baby Bear was also in that, and I know
Hmm.
she got some inappropriate comments about like her being there and her belonging there. And guys, be better. Like if you see people like that, don't just kind of ignore it. Call them out. Bring attention to it because Baby Bear is a fantastic player and is a good Hearthstone player and knows what she's doing. And regardless, we have to start being better about equality in gaming. So it always seems like a minor thing. It's like you want to say, I just brush it off, ignore it, but the more you let that happen, it's not going to change. So, sorry, little PSA, but
No, you're good.
Pilot, sorry, go ahead, continue. What Master Store?
So yes, we had the Masters Tour playoffs also this weekend, um, to get into the Summer Championship. So these were kind of the qualifiers for that, with 4 players from each region qualifying. So for APAC, and I apologize in advance for any of these names that I probably mispronounce. For APAC, we had Didi Yong, Shaxi, Rot, and Chensu. For EU, we had um, Newbusser and Kuro, Maverick, and Roburg. And for Americas, we had Skill Drain, McBanterface, Wind Brownie, and ZLSJS, however you pronounce that full consonant name. So I appreciate them at least being in letters that I can read, unlike what I first looked at when I was trying to find the results. So they qualified for the Summers Master Tour. I did not get a chance to watch much of these between my schedule today, playing Lorcan and all that, and having to get stuff done. But top decks are pretty much about where you would expect them to be, to where most everybody brought Mug Shaman, Dragon Warrior, very popular, 2-bit Rogue, variations of Face Hunter with and without the King of the Underbelly, Egg Warrior, Control Priest, Quest Mage, Quest Priest, kind of filling out most of the top decks. As you go down, you run into some more interesting ideas as people are forming target lineups, including things like Egg Priest and um, apparently there were 2 Rafam blocks on one of the servers. It's not showing me which server it is on HS Guru without going back and losing my page. Some Dude Paladin, one Brave Mill Paladin, some Unholy DK, so Logash Warrior, which has been popping up more on ladder as well. That deck is very, very fun when it works. That's another deck that I played a lot of. So, the main meta players that you'd expect, with kind of where we're at, and then some other stuff to try to make some target lineups. But did either of you catch anything or have anything you wanted to chime in with the playoffs?
I caught a little bit of it, not a ton because it was definitely it started off early. It started off at 3 a.m. because it was the
Mhm.
Asia version and just it was a little busy. But I caught a few games here and there. It's good, always fun. Nice to see McBannerface winning, and
Mhm.
you know, what about yourself, Worley? You catch any?
No, not really. I was my sister was actually had to go to urgent care this morning. So I was helping her for most of the day. Uh, but she's okay. But I missed a big chunk of all of that this weekend, and I think it's great. Again, like you said, McFanderface finally made it through the the Swiss like he did the hard way, I guess. I'm not sure if this is the hard way or getting points on ladders the hard way. It's unclear. But you get to see that like you get a mix of kind of unknowns and also like the people that you do know, right? Like and so it's good to see them all in the same pool, already having the same kind of chance at this. You can definitely see the people who were building a lineup with something in mind succeeding because people left up Shaman. Like they knew what they were doing, and everybody brought the
Mhm.
deck. So sometimes you have people that are like, yeah, I can target that. I don't know if that was wise this time, but it's definitely different than ladder, and it emphasizes different skills than ladder. So always good to see it, and take it with a grain of salt. What did well, see, I think there's like a way more egg warrior in the tournament than you do on ladder, better or
Mhm.
worse. So looking forward to the next Masters tour, which is coming up pretty shortly, I think, right?
Probably.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
so McBannerface has made it through every time he's spectated Pilot in between series.
Yeah, he wasn't influenced by my bad play. I forget if I said that before the show or during the talking about ladder, but yeah, I was jamming games yesterday, and I just had a pop up that I missed of, hey, someone's spectating me. Who is this? At 9 or 10 in the morning, whenever I was playing, I'm like, why is McBanterface spectating me? And then it kept going. I'm like, he must be playing in playoffs, and this is between rounds. So I was on his stream for more games than I should have been. I won more than I lost. So, and chat was distracted, so we'll take it.
There you go.
Um, so outside of tournaments, we did get a significant hotfix patch, taking care of a bunch of the bugs that popped up in the first week or so. So notable things that they have fixed: Slag Claw is fixed and no longer gets the extra kindred triggers when its battle cry is doubled. So it is unbanned. Booming Blooming Bulb from Cultivating Sprite can now correctly cast prepare spells. I did not know that that was a thing, but apparently it wasn't playing spells that had prepare. Maybe Judgment now resolves correctly when cast by a non-player. So, like if a minion cast it, Judgment works correctly. Apparently, Captured Archmage was not correctly activating after 4 deaths when triggered by another card, such as Umbra. Um, Muggsy now properly checks cards in your starting hand, so you can no longer play the quest in the minion only version. Um, and then also the battle cry doubling hero power no longer keeps its effect after your hero power is replaced. I did not know that that was a thing, so that is fixed with Muggsy. Azalina Soulweaver, the priest rule breaker, was apparently copying cards from the wrong player's version of cards in mirror match situations. So that is fixed. Not sure what that was. If maybe one copies first and the other was copying the copies. Lotus Troublemaker and Jade Guardians no longer count using health instead of mana to play cards for two. So people are playing the Warlock neutral that lets you pay health for your next Murloc to get a quote unquote free trick or tick on that. So that no longer works since the card specifically says mana. Tiny Pal no longer gets an ammunition when it's first randomly equipped by another effect. That's most commonly seen off a stadium announcer, where you'd get a random weapon equipped and it would automatically have the freeze one as the default. I thought that that was intended, not a bug. because it is always consistent. Godfrey now properly shows both players the Overdrone cards. Noxious Bribe can now be played when your board is full. And I think the most fun one that was fixed in Wild, Mana Burn no longer incorrectly gives the opponent an extra mana crystal when played on the first turn while going first. It's a very specific scenario that I would love to know the issue that caused it to be like, well, they only have one. I can't take away two. Let's give them one instead. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Actually ran into the Umbra one with the Archmage because I thought that that was like, okay, well, four of them died, so Umbra should trigger now, and like Umbra did nothing, and that was, I think, the moment I said, I guess I'm done with this deck for now. So yeah, I'm glad that happened.
Yeah. There are still a list of known issues that they keep adding a couple things to. Most of them are very, very specific cases or very small things in comparison. So they're getting to kind of biggest ones being the Violet Punisher. Some minions are still retaining taunt. There's some achievement bugs. Apparently, the events, some daily events, don't specify what modes. They're supposed to be in, but they can't be completed in casual. It doesn't specify that. Um, and then I think that's mainly it for standard related bugs. And then um, we had a big news drop out of the blue. We had mentioned a little bit last week, not in the news, but just kind of in chatting, that there was a posting for a game director that people had seen for Hearthstone, and then this week we got an official post from Tyler Beelman, the game director, that he is leaving, with the specific word being retiring. So put up a post that you can possibly find on socials and whatnot. But saying that he's resigned from Blizzard after 3 years with nothing lined up for the future. So kind of going into it for looking at retiring. But talking about deciding to leave and clarifying that it was him choosing to leave and not because Microsoft just laid off 3,000 some people. Um, Mainly affecting Xbox. But that's been making the rounds, and I know that we've had some chats over the past couple years about the direction of the game and the you know visibility or lack thereof of the game director and what direction that is going in. So I think most people have kind of gotten their thoughts out there, but we interested to see where this goes.
It's kind of funny that he said more in his retirement speech than he did in his entire time as a game director.
Yeah.
Like okay, it was great not knowing you. See ya. Whatever. Hopefully they get somebody at least a little more interactive in their next term, or next as a next game director. Maybe they can bring back Ixar or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're like the player community maybe has gotten too much influence over game design, right? Like I think that was the main complaint, is that the last 3 years maybe seems like designed by committee a little bit. Um where, you know, love it or hate it, like the Highlander stuff and Badlands, like that was a crazy expansion, right? And there's like some real whiplash back against that. So I don't know, like so people prefer different parts of the game, but I think they played it safe a lot of times, trying to tie into things like Ngoro too, right? Where I don't know. It'll be good to see somebody new in the role, see what they do with it. I think there's a lot of opinions that there's only one way to go, and that's up. But I think that's a little unfair because you do see these calls from like the public, like the greater Hearthstone community, being like, "We think this car is not fun for us," and so that car gets the adjustment or whatever, and the game doesn't necessarily improve because most people are not good game designers. And just appealing to the public honestly doesn't serve them that well. So hopefully they take it in a different direction. I know I've said this before on this show. Like we just uprooted our CTO. Just like the management came in, they said you've got a completely new CTO, and that CTO came in and said we're doing everything completely differently now. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, more visibility would be great. But I think at least most of the competitive computers want them to like take hard stances on things, and own it. So hopefully we'll get that out of whoever takes on the next role.
As long as they're fearless, focused, and
Oh my
fun, they
gosh.
can't go wrong.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot more behind the scenes into it, and I think as Storm Rage in his blog post this morning, I thought had a very good nuanced approach to it, especially knowing how vocal he has been against the direction of the game over the past couple of years. But especially, kind of commenting, yes, we know that some of these decisions and things might be even above, the game director, coming from higher ups because, especially the money making things and cosmetics to where that might not be, you know, as fully on him. But I do think that there is a lot of direction with how the gameplay is that should fall on him, either decision making or lack of coordination among the teams. Because I think we had it most with Quest. Quests are the easy one to go back to because it was super clear that Initial had some really cool ideas to do, and then afterwards they were squashed into unplayable cards for the most part. So, that lack of coordination across teams should fall on someone in leadership. As someone who that as a teacher, as a leader of a large group in the school, that falls on me all the time as the person who is the face of part of the music program. I totally understand that, and that falls on me when stuff like that happens. But I also agree with World 8 to where you know you can't take too much. It's hard to feel out how much community feedback, and I think a lot of it goes back to, I think it was Ixar when he was in it, had made a comment in one of his Q&As about how all balance changes are field based, which, just looking at that quote, it's just like, oh, that's awful. But it's true, because if you have a card that is super overpowered, you're going to feel something when you play it, and you're going to feel frustrated. And it's clear this card is overperforming statistically, and you feel that when you're playing against it. And you're going to feel that thing if this deck is way too strong and it's backed up in the numbers. And I do think that there is some of that, and people latch onto the wrong side of that argument. But if you're trying to balance to what everyone is saying, just take a fun, casual look over at the Hearthstone forums and just go to the first page and see the top topics of, if you go down, there's 10 different decks that are busted and need to be deleted. And there is currently a post on there from yesterday saying the coin needs to be changed because it is overpowered, because it counts as a card and triggers everything, including spells and combo and things like that. The coin. There are people posting complaining about the coin that you get for going second, not the coins from Aya that actually do something. The coin that gives you a mana when you go second.
Yeah. No. I mean,
So
people hate Rogue. If people hate Rogue, people hate Priest. I mean, you either like it or you hate it, right? And then when you think about the coin, you're like, where's the coin? The biggest problem is Rogue. So I said, to your point before, I would have loved to have been in a meeting where like Initial was like, okay, here's our ideas for the quests, and like we're excited about this, and like, yeah, hey, these are great, but how about this? What if we made the quests suck? That would have been a time. All right. So do we have any other news today?
I don't think so. If we do, I missed it, and we'll have plenty of news to talk about next week, most likely with the balance patch. So
That's well, yeah. I assume we get a balance patch, right? Have they announced it yet?
they said that the window is going to be 2 weeks after expansion launch. They were very intentionally keeping that window because it is after playoffs. but also giving plenty of time for them to get data on what things were looking like with all the weird cards and rule breakers and everything. Focus on bugs the first 2 weeks, get playoffs done, and then make that first balance patch.
And I like it better when they do that anyway. I like it better when like don't it may feel on day 3 like, "Oh my god, Monkey's gotta be nerfed," but, like, then day 4, day 5, you find out, something else. And yeah, Shaman's been too good, but, that's fine. It's only 2 weeks. Let him figure it out and take the time to figure out what's good about the Shaman, and if
Mhm.
you nerf Shaman, what else is going to get better, and how to kinda deal the whole cascading thing. But, so
Yeah.
if you guys remember, we used to have Dragon Rider on once a month or so, and we would cover a new topic, or a basics topic. We would call I forget what we called it. I think it was like the building basics or something like that. And we haven't had that for a while because Dragon Rider has, I think, essentially retired from creating content, or just life is taking her in a different direction for now. So we hope she's doing well. Hope she comes back at some point when it works for her. But we had World 8 on all the time, and so I asked Pilot if he thought it was a good idea, and he agreed. It's like, "Hey, Mr. 8, how would you like to maybe have your own, like, monthly segment or so?" And World Eight's like, "No, I don't think that's a good idea at all." But then he said, "Yeah, you know what? Maybe I could." So, World 8, I will pass it over to you and let you, drive this segment.
All right. Well, yeah, happy to be doing this. Welcome to the Eighth Dojo. This is a nod to anyone who played Magic the Gathering about 30 years ago. There was a website called the Dojo, and it basically had all of like the fundamental trading card game theory. And you can go back and it holds. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, the segment is the plan is to go over some kind of evergreen strategic topic, ideally things that haven't been gone over and over again. Uh, Bread and Butter has been terrific for two reasons. For one, you guys are always doing great interviews. Um, the podcast is excellent for that. And then in between, a lot of times you've covered evergreen topics. I've been on for quite a few of those, and it's always really good to get other people's thoughts on them. And I kind of want to just push that a little bit here too. So for the first week on the Eighth Dojo, I wanted to talk about threat assessment. It's not really something that's, I was trying to think of some topic and I was like, well, what's like, how do I talk about who's the B town? And specifically, there's a follow-up article called like Who's the Beatdown by Zvi Mockovich. Like it was like about 5 years after the original Floors article. That's not too important here. The important thing is that Who's the Beatdown says in a game, this trading card game, one on one at least, one person is trying to push the game to close as soon as they can, the beatdown, while the other player sort of is trying to slow them down because they have inevitability. If the game goes long, the control player will eventually exhaust one of the other player's resources, or they just have a better late game. So priest control priest is like one that would exhaust a resource, where like ramp druid, just like if you give them enough breathing room, every turn they're going to put down a bigger threat than their opponent. So when we talk about who's the beatdown, the compliment actually is threat assessment, because when you're figuring who the beatdown is, you're thinking like, what's the proactive? Like, how do I win? Do I win by closing out the game early? Do I win by having the late game strategy? Threat assessment is the other side of that, which is how do I lose? Like, how is my opponent trying to win? And what can I do to mitigate that? Ideally, stop it, which is probably not the case. Or just generally make the best what happens is what are the best decisions that can we make in the context of the board state? Um, and so while we go through the topic, I'm going to ask you guys what your thoughts are. I don't want this to just be a monologue the whole time. I've got these all in like the show notes. I don't know if that's going to be shared or not, but we'll go through it. And the first thing I want to talk about is kind of the simplest layer of threats, right? So when you're playing the game, there's the threats on the board, right? Like all of your opponent's minions, their locations, auras, whatever. Like this is immediate game states that you can see. If nothing else, that's what's going to be presented to you. There's also threats in their hand. So do they play a rock skipper and they've got a rock? There's some obvious ones like that. But do they all like discovers? Kind of a little trickier to assess. But if they played a Dark Rider on one and they haven't played their Dark Gift minion by turn 7, we can get a good guess that it's something big and chunky, right? Uh so there's a lot of like unknowns with the threats in hand. And then the last one is kind of like strategic threats. And what I mean by that is generally what's in their deck, but also that's also, or I'd say like kind of like a quest progression might fall into that. If that could be threats on board, or but like what's their long term game plan? And so we kind of know, even if they've got nothing in their hand, maybe they'll come up with it eventually, like a board clear, something like that, where you've got a good sense that they don't have it immediately because they would have cleared your board, but maybe they're going to draw to it, right? Like that's a pretty common scenario where they have this strategic answer. Now, an answer, that's the threat. The threat is to your state of how you're going to win the game. All of a sudden, that's how you lose the game, right? The board clear, you lose the game. Like you've lost all your initiative and your momentum. Now, when we talk about things like this, now I want to go back to Tito and Pilot. Like, how much do you guys usually think about how threatening these different things are? The board, the hand, the strategy. Like, do you give them any more assessment than just like what's on the board?
I think the strategic threat is always the hardest to think about just because it's not immediately in your face. Threats on board, fairly easy to normally kind of figure out. Sometimes, prioritizing them might be different, like what, is later on. Threats in hand normally can kind of figure out because you've seen the generation, or like you said, you've seen the Dark Rider. They haven't played it yet. It's either, probably, some sort of, cheap big legendary dragon, or it's a double battle cry, 5 damage. So you're getting pyro blasted for 5. Like you could start to be like, okay, it's either something like that I need to think of, or it's really, really bad. And it's just going to sit in their hand the whole game and you played around it, didn't have to worry about it, which is sometimes just fine also. Um, but that's normally the hardest, as well as, threats in hand normally start to come up for me just as that lethal clock starts to tick up and there's more information out there. Um, of okay, facing Hunter, what would they need? Okay, they've got 5 cards in hand. How many of them need to be direct damage for me to be dead? Can I ignore this 2 attack thing, or am I probably dead from that? Just counting that, and then really like the strategic threat idea because I do think that that's something that is easy to miss because it's not always right there in front of you, but sometimes you do play against quest priests and you're like, okay, I'm fine. I got through the soothsayers and all of that. And oh, there's 2/8/8 reborns in my face because I totally forgot that they were 1 tick away from completing the quest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Tito. I would just like the
No,
answer, Pilot. Thank you.
yeah, I try to. A lot of this comes with matchups, right? Too, because it's like a lot of times, like the threat, the for example, the what's the bulwark guy, the paladin that does 2 damage at the end of your turn, or 2 damage twice. Like if you're playing like big minions and druid, if you're playing a Jar's druid, it's like whatever, who cares? Like play it out there, I don't care. But if you're playing something that has a lot of tokens or small things, that's a bigger concern. So it's like when you want to take care. I think of these things almost as having taunt in a way, because like these are things I need to deal with right away and get off the board. And sometimes that'll affect like my game plan because, well, no, I have to, like, even just like something simple. If the shaman plays that 1/3 that they have, that battle cry minions get +1/+1. I see that and I'm like, I want that off the board as soon as possible because that just snowballs. And so instead of playing my one cost minion, I might play the 0/2, the zero thing that the zero card that gives me +2 attack and then coin out attack and kill that. Maybe that's a waste of resources, but if I don't take care of that right away, that snowballs. So I try to that's kind of where I was thinking with these kind of threat assessments here is like not just like, hey, how do I deal with the fact that I think that how do I deal with if they have this clear or this thing or whatever like that? But also, what are they showing me, and how important is it for me to get rid of that? Which I think is more on the threat on board versus kind of the strategic. But I think that those are both important.
No, I think you actually brought up quite a few great things there. One of the things you touched on without saying what it is called a soft taunt. So the soft taunt is like I have to throw everything to kill this thing. Like Vanessa doesn't technically have taunt, but she might as well. For all purposes of trying to like nuke her off the board as soon as possible. Because you know what I was gonna kind of lead into is how do we prioritize the threats? Let's say that we can't deal with all of them without throwing our game plan to the wind because you can't play just to avoid losing. You still have to play to win. So if we can identify like what's actually threatening versus what's just like annoying or appears threatening, right? Like this is kind of the distinction I want to get to. But Tito, you touched on a terrific like that snowballing threat, getting that 1/3 off the board is so important. We saw that with like the cub at the beginning of the last expansion. Like if you don't get the cub off the board, it is going to be a 4/5 by like turn 3 and then it's just going to keep going. Even though it starts off really really innocent. The new shaman one drop same thing, right? And I don't fault you for coining out to kill that thing because very quickly against like a Z shaman, that thing is going to be a 3/4. It's going to be a 5/6, and you're going to lose the game to that. So in terms of priorities, like I would generally say, like, am I going to die? Right? Like that's just top priority, right? Like if that was obvious, but you have to like include it, right? Like you got to check, do they have lethal? Right? Sometimes I don't check if I have lethal, but that's a mistake, right? Like we should always check, do they have lethal? Do I have lethal? It's kind of amazing actually when you sometimes you check if they have lethal and they miss it. You're like, yes,
Yep.
somehow they
I
dodged that bullet.
I think sometimes it's easier to understand. Like it's I know when my opponent has lethal or if they're going. I can calculate that a lot more than when I'm playing my turn because then I'm thinking of other things about what they're doing. But like when I'm like, oh, my opponent has lethal, I miss it on my end more than I miss it on their end.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of funny, but like that is right. Like immediate, like do they have lethal on board? But after that, I think top priority would be the snowballing threats. And that's where it gets tiny bit fuzzy almost right away. It's like, how much is this going to snowball? Because that 1/3 on 1 from the shaman is a huge deal. But that played on turn 5, I could live, you can live with that. Even if it's going to grow pretty quickly, there are probably more pressing threats here. Um, and after that, is there something that's giving them resources, right? That's not just snowballing, like the Spider Rider gives them resources, or there's something that's providing a permanent discount, right? So they kind of we have to assess the threats as like the next step here, uh, and prioritize what's on board and can they replace can they replace it? Like a lot of times, sometimes you'll encounter something where they're presenting a threat and that's the only one that they have. Or maybe they have a duplicate, right? Like if you get rid of um that one, the next one's just going to come right behind it. So eliminating that threat, we might have to just live with it. Um and that's a big part of what we're trying to figure out here is we can't cover all our bases all the time, right? And that's the thing I want to emphasize here is we are trying to not avoid losing completely, we're trying to be mindful of it, and we're trying to hamstring our opponent's path to victory. This is I brought this topic up because I noticed I kept doing something this last week or so, which is I'd have my mother duck. My mother duck would clear out their one of their threats, and then it would leave a 1/3 pedal picker like on the board. Like I'd cleared everything out, and then I would have my warp tooth trade that off. And that's been a mistake. I've been making that mistake for a week now that I'm thinking about it because I should just be sending that damage face. I'm over trading there where that's it is giving like a little bit +1/+1 at the end of the turn, but it's really not that threatening on its own. And the other thing that I've been, again, just as against Dragon Warriors, is sometimes we just want to ignore their Slither Drake. That thing is so annoying to eliminate. It's still got a big butt. It's still elusive, but it's not actually hitting that hard anymore. I think I've still got PTSD from when it like we first started playing against it. Uh like don't get me wrong, like 5 damage a turn is not nothing, but it's not even that good in the stats anymore. People are cutting it. And I think it's just because it seems really difficult to remove, but that doesn't mean it's actually having that big of an impact on the game state. Um, because if we start pressuring them, they might have to start using that to trade off our threats. So what I'm kind of getting at though is what is a good framework for identifying what's the immediate threats and how to and like do we even need to deal with them? Um, so I think the easiest way is like do we overtrade? So what are your thoughts on that topic? Tito, you want to go first?
Sure. I think we a lot of times have like you are like some recency bias. Like if you remember the like the last couple times that card has done you in your mind, it's all of a sudden it's a priority. Like if they play the 1/4 Drake with poison on it with reborn, you're like, oh, this has got to go. But does it? Like, what are you playing? Like, do you have like a 1/1 taunt that they have to get through and you have things behind it? Yeah, maybe, but like it's you I think a lot of times we go right to the, "Oh, this is a threat, it needs to die," but without even really kind of evaluating, well, is it really that big of a deal in this particular situation or not? You know, and sometimes you just see a card and right, you're just like, "Oh, I gotta get rid of that." And I don't know, sometimes you really don't like it's been kind of funny too, like you were talking about this earlier, like as far as like, hey, how do we I you want to the soft taunt, you need to get rid of that. And I think that kind of plays into this quite a bit, especially play like seeing this play in the Maiev Paladin that I've been playing is I'll coin out Maiev on 2 and people are like, "Oh no." And they go to kill it and then I play the second one and they just kind of sit there and hover like they're like, "Wait, what? What?" But it's just kind of like, "Hey, you have memories of how your recent games have gone or even maybe in different like I see that stupid egg bearer guy come down. I'm like, "Oh, I just like, okay, now I have to change my game plan because I know that unless it's shaman that's getting their O2s or their O1, their frogs, if it's not that, I'm like, oh, they're playing egg. How do I address this right from the beginning? And so I guess that is kind of like the strategic thrust that was talking about. And I don't know if I might have taken the wrong turn on this topic, but like right there, it's like even though that particular thing is not a threat, that gave me information. It's like, oh, I know what I have to start thinking about. So maybe I can't just use these resources like I want to, or maybe I need to start playing cards even if I'm not getting full value out of them because now I'm in a race to punch them in the face before they get 2020s with taunt out. So it might not even be the cards that they're playing. It might even just be kind of like what you know is coming that you need to take advantage of and think about and deal with.
Yeah, I think that's where I end up a lot to where, like, especially when it comes to trading or deciding when to use a from hand resource to take care of something. So, like, playing the attack druid, you know, there are some matchups where you have to be really, really careful about what you're using that striker on, that 2 cost minion, because sometimes you need to save it for the big thing that you don't want to hit your face into, but sometimes that big thing isn't coming as soon as you think it does, and now this, 3/4 has done 12 damage to you because you're just like, "It's not time yet, it's not time yet. Oh, I'm almost dead." And it's so hard because you're gonna be wrong sometimes, and that's okay. That's part of learning the game. Um, but I think a lot of times, when I'm looking at that, especially early game, I'm much more inclined to trade, um, depending on the deck for board control. I think that that's a carryover from me playing more Lorcana, where early game board control is super important, in that meta, and it has all the board based gameplay feels that people have been asking for in Hearthstone just because of the nature of the game, and there's no random cards popping out of nowhere, um, in paper. But I later on, it's much more determined by, okay, how close are both of us to counting? Like really counting and being, more than, yeah, I definitely don't have lethal. Like, are we getting to where, we're both a couple turns away from really counting carefully? And can I speed up my clock to where can I just say, you know what? I'm just gonna ignore this. And if you choose to do the same thing, I've got it next turn. Um, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and then you reassess. And like I said, sometimes you're wrong with that. I had that recency bias when you were talking about Slither Drake because I died to an innocuous Slither Drake the other day because I'm like, yeah, this is fine. I forget I was at like 15, 15 or something like that with just like a Slither Drake on board or maybe some other little, thing that I'm like, yeah, it's not going to do much. And double sanguine depths plus damage from hand and I lost. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that I'm dead." I did not see that coming because it wasn't buffed yet. It was just a 5/8, sitting on board as a big elusive and then it hit me for 9 because they double pinged it. It's like, "Whoops." But I couldn't do anything anyways.
Yeah. So I think, we can't know all the things all the time, right? And this is just about putting a framework together for, again, like assess like how do we lose the game, or what are their ways to win the game, effective ways. And it's something where we're trying to be what we're trying to do is be resource efficient, right? Our mana is a resource, returns a resource, right? Like, and if we, you know, keeping on that Slither Drake, it's like 8 damage. That minion is 8 damage that didn't go face a lot of times,
Mhm.
right? And 8 damage face is a lot of damage face, right? Like that is a significant investment to remove that card from the board. Um, but yeah, sometimes it's the right call, or sometimes we don't know they've got the double depths in the hand that's gonna basically put four damage on it. Um, and then sometimes there's like very subtle threats too that we need to be mindful of, and this only really comes from like just experience. So I've just been playing so much warrior, and please excuse me if this is too much warrior, but if a warrior doesn't have their warp tooths out or something like that, and they've got 2 minions on the board, like a dragon warrior specifically, they can get their warp tooths out with just by playing some kind of weapon, right? Bump, bump, weapon, the warp tooths are on the board. So it's actually, you don't have to clear their board, but it's so annoying if you only have 1 minion on the board to get those warp tooths out, unless you got Dock or something. But right, like that second minion is actually sort of again one of those like soft taunts, but only really if you know the matchup and you know the strategic resources in their deck, um, and things like that. So those subtleties, just something to always keep in mind. Um, and as the game progresses on, again, like the priorities change, right? Those early snowball creatures aren't as important. Honestly, like on turn 7, 6 damage from a pair of chargers isn't that as impactful as it is on turn 3 or 4. So we don't have to think about that much, and that's kind of where our inclination to trade early, establish board is because that's where those things tend to snowball. Those are snowballing minions. And later on, it's like, okay, well, whatever their biggest threat is, I'll deal with at that one time because they probably have a board of things. And so we'll go back a little bit to like what I call the steps in threat assessment. So first, does something kill me? Right. Like let's deal with that. Right. Like, so that's always like kind of like a step 0. But the next question to ask is like, what's the scariest thing that my opponent can do on this turn or the next turn? This concept has been around forever for the aggressive player. Like, what's their board clear? Like, pretty typically, you know where in the mana curve the board clear is. Um, if you're feeling really into it, you can look up Wrath of God, Magic the Gathering on Google, and there's like endless articles on this topic, which is basically that's how the aggressive player loses the game is if the control player has the clear. So that's another topic in depth that I'm not going to go into, but right now most board clears are on 6, so don't overcommit on 5. Right, that's the scariest thing they could do is wipe the board on 6 with their decimation, with their tentacles, with their I forget what the Death Knight one is, experimentation, I think, right?
Yeah, it's experimental animation or whatever it is.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a dumb name for a board killer, by the way. Uh,
For a spell.
For a spell.
No, it
For a
sounds like it
spell,
should be
yeah.
a minion.
Yeah, a minion with a battle cry. I would get that. Anyway,
Or a resuscitate kind of card because you're reanimating something.
Yeah. But the point is, right, like, so for the threat assessment, like that's probably the next biggest thing to consider, right? Like how does my opponent move their victory? Like what's their next big victory move that they can do? And can I stop it? Sometimes we can't. But if we can, like how do we play around it? So, Pilot, is there anything that you do in particular there that you think has helped in the past with like trying to be like, oh, I know this is the biggest, scariest thing that my opponent can do?
Yeah, I think one of my go-to phrases is always, what can I do to make it most awkward for my opponent next turn? And you can especially do that when playing around board clears because you can sometimes, not always, but sometimes you can build a board or threats in a way that, they want to deal with it. And if they don't deal with it, it works out for you. But if they do deal with it, it's not your most threatening thing, and you have something to follow it up with. And being able to assess that, and you know World 8 had mentioned, if you're playing aggressively, you kind of need to know when those are. And I feel like if any aggro player doesn't know when the board clears are, they haven't played enough aggro, because you specifically remember those games that you would have won if they did not have that card on that turn that they're supposed to. And as soon as you get that a few times, you're going to remember that, Brawl is 5 and Animation is 6, and hey, I have to watch out for Medivh's Triumph and Quest Priest, and those cards, and you know exactly what they do, because then you can start to build around it. Um, and you're able to kind of play off of those a little bit and kind of build something to where, hey, I know, Priest right now is damage or attack based removal, so I'm going to build different sizes of threats against them. I'm going to have a 3/3 that is going to die to Medivh's, but if they do that, I've got this 5/6 that's going to live, and they don't want to Shadow Root only that because it's going to let the smaller stuff keep going. And you can find what correct things to build into that, especially since we don't have things like Brawl and Corpse Explosion right now.
And I think a lot of times it's you have to decide whether or not I think sometimes you'd be like, well, I can't play this because they're going to have the clear. But what if they clear? Are you dead anyway? Like, so make them have it in some cases, which we've talked about before, is like, well, I'm going to win the game if I play these cards, but I'm going to lose the game if they have this. But if I kind of go halfway and say, well, I'm going to hold something back, but like they clear, then you're never going to catch up anyway. Like make those, you have to kind of make those decisions. And like what Pilo was saying is deciding if you can make it awkward for your opponent to do the thing that you don't want them to do. Like we've talked about this previously. I think a great example of this always is Odin Warrior. Like the ideal thing you could do with Odin against Odin Warrior was put enough pressure on them that they couldn't play Odin. They didn't have the time to play Odin. So you had to just like right now, like it's like if you're playing against Mage, not that Mage is good, but you want to keep pressure on them because they want to play Millhouse, right? Or whatever his name is. And that is like the thing, but that's a 5 mana 5/5 do nothing or whatever it is. And you want to make it so they can't take that turn because they have to respond to you doing what you're doing. Otherwise, they're so yeah, I think it's kind of evaluating the threats and deciding like I think we have to think about it more, not just about how they're going to clear. Do they have the clear, but also, okay, if they clear, I just lose anyway, or whatnot, and figuring out how to take the best advantage of the situation with the knowledge that you have to either try to get the win or just accept the fact that they may have it.
It's also a lot looking at what you're fine with them clearing too, I think. Like, when you play Wickerfang and Druid, part of that is probably going to die or they're going to concede. Like what one of those two things is going to happen. They either kill off enough of the legs that it doesn't snowball too much, or they kill off the main body and you're left with the legs that are still buffing and doing damage, or they can't do either and they just say, "Nope, I'm good." Um, so being able to go into that with a plan then of I know something's going to die. I'm going to slam my Wicker Fang here on 4 or 5 because I ramped. And then I've got this to do if they clear the body. I've got this to do if they clear the legs.
Oh, I used to love that. That was my favorite thing to do with it. Wickerfang. You play a Wickerfang, and you know they're going to use all their resources to get rid of that whole thing, and they spend 5 cards, 3 cards, whatever it is, getting rid of it, and then you just follow it up with a Brood Mother, and you're like, okay, deal with this now, and they can't, right? A lot of times, so it's just like, hey, taking taking advantage of so we had a question in the chat which was from High Palpatine, a listener. It's like, how do you know when to draw the line between eliminating a threat for our own advantage and doing it reactively, which an opponent can do sometimes for their advantage? And I think this has a lot to do with what we're just talking about. And like a lot of times you've talked about, hey, maybe I should trade or whatever, like that, whatever. But if you have a card that like was again say Maev, and you know they're going to want to clear that card or whatever card that might be with like the soft taunt or maybe real taunt, but the soft taunt, like a lot of times we'll trade like because we want to keep their board clear, but then we've just made it easier for them to kill our minion when you know that they're going to want to kill our minion anyway. So in that case, hit them in the face and let them do the trading because like they need to eliminate our threat. You got to it's we're thinking about it from one end and we're talking about this in one end and maybe this is a little more detailed than we want to get. But like, hey, we're addressing we're threat assessing like, hey, I need to get rid of this or what do I think they have? But you also have to think of what their threat assessment is of us in that situation and how we can also take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's actually kind of where I wanted to lead this all. This is all the roads lead to back to who's the beatdown, really. Because we assess their threats. We say what are the key things that they're trying to do in this matchup, right? What are their best cards in the situation? If we can mitigate them, like Pilot said, like their clears aren't as good as they want them to be. We've reduced their card efficiency. Sometimes they just have big threats we have to deal with. We have to deal with the Wicker Fang. Like we got no choice in the matter. But if we could take a look at, do they have a high threat scenario? Like, are they threatening? Are they very threatening? Or are they not threatening at all? Because if we know that they're not, if like all of their stuff, all of the resources out there, and we're kind of like, yeah, that's not much, we can put the pedal down and really go. right? Like, and they're on the back foot. We keep them on the back foot, we're more likely to win the game. On the other hand, right, if we find ourselves overwhelmed with the threats that our opponent has, it's like, do I have a solution somewhere in my deck? It's not here. Maybe I have to discover it. How do I how do I stop the loss here? Um, a lot of if you watch high level streamers, this is a consistent thread of play to your outs, I think is what it's often called, right? Like maybe I've got one card in my deck that allows me to turn the tide of the game. How do I make my way to that one card along the way because this game has gone really sour, but still salvageable. Um, and it kind of answers the question that who's the beatdown poses at the beginning of the game. Sometimes it's obvious that you're playing an aggro deck, they're playing a control deck. It is what it is. Let's go. Sometimes, but a lot of times you're playing a mirror or you're playing two decks that could go either way depending on how the game goes. And generally, if you're the one in the more threatening position, you're the beatdown. Like because your opponent does have the chance to turn it around, right? At any point. So you want to put the pressure on when you can, or, like I said, you could be on the end of it. And so you're trying to control the situation until you can. So that's kind of what the point of all this is threat assessment improves our general resource efficiency so we don't overtrade. And it honestly is not that hard of an exercise to do. Um, but I wanted to bring it up because it's worth considering because I was doing it all this week, right? Like that's where I came up with this. I noticed I was doing it specifically against Dragon Warrior and their different varieties of threats. And I caught myself and I said, this is actually a good topic to talk about and think and about because when players start playing, not everybody, but like a lot of people will start be like, oh, I'm going to start value trading. And then they overtrade. Um, where the correct response is probably go face more and only trade off those key threats and force your opponent to do the trades. So that's kind of why I brought up the topic and mostly got to say what I want to say about it. And I don't know, do you guys have any final thoughts on it?
It's just sometimes you gotta think about the long term of the game versus we had that whole episode where we talked about good discovers, but like I think threat assessment also plays right into this too. Like it might be very exciting to play get the 4/5 dark gift, which is usually what I go for, but if you're playing against a quest mage and you generate a viper, take the viper. It doesn't matter what else you got because like you have regardless of what you could do right now, maybe you could get some more tempo, but you just got the card that says I win basically in that.
Sometimes.
So sometimes, most of the time. Um, but yeah, so just it's not just as simple as the moment, and it's not just as simple as the long-term strategy. It's everything. It's putting each piece of it together and thinking about it as a whole. And s- yes, evaluate. Hey, if I need to kill this card right now, but then you're like, well, if I use this right now to clear it, I don't have this for this other card that I know they're going to play, and that's going to be more of a problem than this thing that's pinging me right now. So you got to kind of just keep in mind the long term and the short term, and yeah.
Yeah. And I think, a couple other points that I would think of is, even though we have these things that feel like they're hard and fast rules, most of them are still only 95% of the time you do the thing because there are those odd scenarios. I had a game earlier this week where I didn't go super out of my way, but it wasn't the easiest thing to do to kill a Vanessa, and it was the wrong play because I wasn't rebuilding a board. They had 5 minions on board with the Vanessa and a full hand. What are they doing? Like, maybe one of them is a big thing that they're able to drop and just say, okay, yeah, I'll drop this, whatnot. But they're not doing anything with that. And any resources they generate, if their hand is full, so they're just, replacing like for like, or, getting worse stuff, and I could have set up better for later for the next turn with what I had. And sometimes that's the scenario. And I think that that goes to the other point that I was going to say is when you're doing this threat assessment, you have to figure out what you're okay with dealing with too. You know, where can I draw the line of being okay for now, and I can make it, a problem 2 or 3 turns down the road. Playing control, this comes up all the time, of managing your clears and being like, this board's not threatening enough, this isn't threatening enough. Now I play my Medivh's Triumph, and it's backbreaking then. Or going against Paladin, and you see that shatter animation go off, and eventually there's Divine Shield +1 attack coming down, and you watch it getting closer and closer together, and you're having to try to evaluate, okay, how long have they had that? How likely and willing do they seem to be trying to get that combined quickly? And how likely do I think is that a 1-drop that's in there that I'm going to have to deal with then on turn 5 of them playing it? And you have to kind of start managing, okay, I'm going to keep a couple things clear on the board. I'm not going to fully trade all the time, that way I don't lose my board, but I'm going to keep them with maybe one thing left on board. So then if it is a 1-drop, it's 4 minions with only one of them attacking, rather than a full board of Divine Shields. And you have to kind of find that line of, I'm not going too far out of my way, but I'm also keeping you from running away with the game because I ignored it too long.
And sometimes we overreact, I think, to things like World 8 was saying. I I think a good example too, and I know I've said a good example a few times, and maybe I'm wrong, but like the O4 totem that generates shadow spells. Sometimes a priest will get that down, and you think, well, I really need to get rid of that. But do you? Sometimes you just leave it there and they get and you're like, okay, maybe they have some things that'll clear some boards or whatever like that. But if you're not playing anything for a while on the board, or if you're doing whatever, then you just watch their hand fill up, and then they start burning cards because they don't have anything they can use these shadow spells on, and then you watch them burn their Medivh or burn their whatever. And those are like those moments that you feel like really smart playing these games, where you're like, oh no, I'm just gonna let them, like, the snake eat its own tail there, and go from it like that. So in some cases, yes, you're like, if I'm playing this particular deck, or if I'm playing this, I need to get rid of that as soon as possible because they're going to generate more whatever they're going to. But what if we didn't? What if we just let them get this stuff? And now they don't know. It's the same thing with Vanessa. Like sometimes, yes, obviously you need to clear Vanessa right away. Most of the time you probably do, but sometimes they run out of hand space and they run out of things they can do because you're not giving them the opportunity to get rid of these things in their hand, and it becomes a problem. And then you kill Vanessa and then you deal with it. So each situation is different. Every Hearthstone game is different. So just keep that in mind and think of each situation. And don't be so hard ironclad into the same response every single time. That's one of the best things about this game is I played, like I said, I played 1,000+ games of Shadow Priest. I played 1,000+ games of Pure Paladin back in the day, and there were still times where I get the mulligan against. I'm like, I don't know what I should do here, and that's after thousands of games. So, each situation, each game is its own thing, and try to just keep that in mind.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you for joining me in the 8th dojo this week. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So question of the week is what's in the 8th dojo next time?
8th dojo next time is going to be, I think, risk taking, right? It's kind of like the follow up to this. We talked a bit about it already, but what risks are you comfortable stomaching, and what's going to push your game plan forward? Sometimes you got to take risks, and that's the only way you win the game. And sometimes you take risks and it doesn't work out, and you got to learn how to live with that, right? A lot of people have a very hard time with risk, so we'll talk about that next time.
That's fair. So if you'd like to support the show, you can do so by joining our Patreon over at patreon.com/breadandbutterhs, where you get access to the raw audio early, access to member channel on Discord. You can help shape future questions. We even got questions in the chat tonight. If you'd like to help us in a non-financial way, you can do so by letting us know how we're doing. Let people know about the show. there's only a few Hearthstone podcasts out there, from what we understand. So if people want to hear about Hearthstone, let them know that this is a great place to get some good information, and maybe they'll just get better at the game. I'd like to thank our patron of the month, Grizzly Bear, and leave us a review. It really helps out. And you can also look for us over at Bread and Butter HS on YouTube, where we post the full VOD and the live, and sometimes we even have shorts out there for your entertainment when people say funny things and whatnot. But World 8, where can people find you if they're looking for you on social media?
Best place to find me is on Discord, World 8. I don't really participate too much in other social media other than that. Although you might find me in Twitch chat, World8_HS. But if you want to engage with me, find me on Discord.
And Pilot, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky, Pilot712, PYLAT, as well as on Discord and the Bread and Butter Discord and multiple other Hearthstone related ones.
And you can find me at Tito Santana HS on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and other places, especially on the YouTube. We've been putting out a lot of deck guides and having a lot of fun with that. World 8, is there anything you'd like to promote or shout out this week?
Well, probably shout out to the Hearthstone casters. I didn't catch much of the Masters Tour, but that's mostly just my own schedule. I'll probably go back and see it, but they put in long hours to make it a good event, and they've got a lot of stamina where you get to the final rounds of it, probably the most important rounds. They've been casting for 8-10 hours. And you think it's kind of fun, but it's exhausting. I've done a small amount of casting myself, and they do a terrific job. So big shout out to them this week, and looking forward to seeing them continue to do well in the upcoming events, as coming soon.
Yeah, we've done the casting too. We've even casted one of your games, but we've casted the fight nights, and we're probably gonna do that again. And it is not, you think it's easy, like you were saying, but just trying to fill time and to really kind of evaluate plays, and especially when these players are probably better than you are, and you're trying to like, oh, they should probably play this, and you're like, why did they play this? I don't know. It's hard. And to not only do that, but also be engaging for the audience. That's a very, very valid point. So, Pilot, you think like to promote or shout out this week?
Yeah, gonna shout out Raichu for providing that awesome attack druid deck that I was able to vibe with. Shout out to Blister Guy, who I ran into on ladder. I thought the timing might have been correct, that I ended up being the walk to work, the podcast opponent, but I was not. I don't know. I didn't do the time zone math because I was up way later than I was supposed to be. So I'm like, maybe this is one of them. It was not. I listened to the episode. And then also, McBanter for the spectate, and hopefully I didn't embarrass myself too much for your stream.
And I'm also just going to shout out McBanner for making it all the way through. One of our favorites here, smart dude. If you don't watch his stream, you should. You might not be able to catch it because he does weird hours, but you learn a lot, and we're looking forward to rooting on him. America's, maybe we can win something one of these days, one of these years. Who knows? But anyway, guys, I think we're toast. We'll see you.
See ya.
All right. See ya.
All right. So how did you feel doing that, Mr. 8?
Good. Yeah. It's like most of podcasting. You do it one time, it feels uncomfortable, and then the next time it'll feel natural.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the fifth
it
time.
always feels uncomfortable. Always feels uncomfortable. No.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was good. I mean, I don't think I would have been comfortable monologuing for half an hour. So thanks for entertaining me.
Yeah.
And
No, monologuing for too long is boring. I like the monologuing for at least a few minutes because it makes it easier for editing. But
yeah,
but we had on the entirety of Born to Be Wild, and that was chaos to edit.
Yeah,
Those
I can
5
imagine.
people all over talking over each other and whatnot. That's one of the like when you have the overtalk, you're like, well, who gets to have their words said?
Yeah. I mean, I did like one of my coachings with Coin Conceit was with Edel, and I just basically, the coaching was, she walked me through how she edited the Coin Conceit podcast. And they've got a pretty good rhythm there where they don't overtalk too much, but they still overtalk a bit. And what I learned from her was like, you just got to pick a winner. Somebody wins.
Yeah.
Like you can't edit it too much. Just somebody had the best point. Drop the other person was like her general advice there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Make it sound as smooth as it is, and honestly, no one really gets their feelings hurt.
No one goes back and listens to the podcast they were on, or if they did, they're not going to remember what they said. Most of the time, it's just you just cover up like somebody blurting into two people blurting something at the same time, and then usually somebody then trying to make it less awkward when it's somebody is like, oh no, you go ahead, no, you go ahead, okay.
Yeah.
Like, just fixing that stuff and figuring out where you can block out big periods of that, and just kind of go from like the question or the answer to the next thing without and being comfortable with just getting rid of some stuff in the middle. I don't usually delete too much at all. Most of the time, it's just kind of like sometimes I'll get rid of a secondary like I was gonna say, and get rid of that first I was gonna say,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, no one wants to listen to themselves talk. The only reason I know that Tito hasn't totally deleted my audio track is because the podcast length is the length of what we recorded. I'm like, yep, I'm still in there. It could have just deleted me out and I wouldn't know. I did have to laugh as we were going through talking about like, these are threats that you could ignore. Every time that Tito brought something up, I'm like, I've been totally screwed by that card multiple times. And it's just like, it's not high priority, but it's priority enough. I'm not going to let them get enough stuff because there's some really solid random shadow spells that are out there that will absolutely just wreck a game. I got run over by a resuscitate from Voodoo Doll or Voodoo Totem. I'm like, I did not expect this, and I can't deal with these reborns. There is something else. It was one of the Death Knight.
Tito's favorite card, resuscitate.
Yeah,
he loves that card.
I got wrecked by an anti-magic shell yesterday from that got generated from it because I'm like, yeah, this isn't too bad, and then suddenly their whole board was elusive. I'm like, I can't do anything.
I've always thought that card was underrated, by the way. Like, no one just ever played it, but like a whole elusive board is really difficult to deal with right now.
It's much better now than it was before.
Yeah,
before it didn't matter because of Brawl and Corpse Explosion, but there's a lot of targeted stuff now. I could see it.
Yeah, so I didn't finish listening to last week's episode, but it was awesome that you got Cantaloupe on. He was a good guest.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like maybe 2/3 of the way through it. But yeah. Who else is lined up for you guys? Anybody good?
So next week, we're waiting on finding out timing for a dev interview, which is thrown things into the monkey wrench into the works as far as when that's going to happen and how to schedule other people. But assuming that doesn't happen next week, I'm excited about next week because we've been pushing this episode off for a while just to find the timing for people, but we're going to have on Storm Rage and Electric Sheep City, and we're going to talk about why new Hearthstone modes fail.
Sounds like a short episode. Real short.
No.
Yeah. Thank goodness we'll be starting late.
Sheep City could talk like probably for like 3 hours about the topic, but like just give him the mic and
and Storm Rage too, but it's one of those things because it was like it came off of them canceling, I don't know, whatever mode they just canceled. Twist.
Duels was for Storm Rage, and then Sheep City loved Twist as much as I did.
And you got like, and so why did Battlegrounds succeed and everything else has failed? And we already know some of the answers, but I think it'd be a good topic of discussion. So
yeah, I think Battlegrounds succeeded despite itself.
Yeah.
Battlegrounds is a good one to play when you're trying to hang up close or whatever, if you're not playing APM Pirates or something.
But I get so stressed out at late phases of Battlegrounds because I don't know what I'm doing.
They just come through reps.
Yeah, I know. But like it's like half an hour to play, like to go deep in a Battlegrounds. Right? And so like that's a lot of like I only get like maybe if I play Battlegrounds like 2-3 reps a night. Like that's my whole like Hearthstone time allotment. It's like 1 to 2 hours.
Kind of where I've slid off of Battlegrounds too, just because I've switched the mental load over to standard more.
You switched the mental load over to Lorcana more, I think.
I did for last set because I wanted to chase the set champ play mat. I got 2 seconds, and I was top seed the one tournament. I got upset the first round. I got close, but now I have no idea what's going to happen because it was rotation this set, so everything's up in the air. A couple of decks got absolutely decimated. The Sapphire is the ramp color for Lorcana, and it lost 2 good 2-cost ramp. So it's basically like Druid losing Wild Growth and Overgrowth at the same time, and it's just like everything's just the curve is broken, absolutely broken. So I don't know what Blue's doing.
Fair,
but yeah, I will selfishly say I was very happy when Sheep said that he could not do tonight for that episode, because I knew we'd be starting late and I knew it's going to go late, and I'm like, I have band camp tomorrow. I'm like, I'll do it if that's the one that works, but holy smokes, that's gonna go forever.
Yeah, I gotta start once we get through the dev interview and we have that at least marked down or told we're not doing it again or whatnot, whatever it is. Once we have resolution, I'm gonna try to book out a while, and try to do a mix of new guests and old guests. It's easy to get like kind of like rest on the laurels. We have so many like repeat guests. It's easy to kind of like reach out to somebody, be like, hey, you want to come on? Especially like someone like you, and we had Dragon Rider and others. But
did Ron stop playing the game? I haven't seen Ron in forever.
he is going to he's a nursing student. He's going to school for nursing.
Yeah, but did he like he stopped streaming, right?
He stopped
streaming. He streamed a couple weeks ago for the it wasn't the Trevor Fund, but it was Trans Life, I think, that they had the THL Trans Life event.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even mention that THL starts up this week.
You had it typed in your portion, so I assumed that you were talking about it, and then you did, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, whatever. We'll get there.
Gotta figure out what I'm doing for that on a week that I'm busy all week, of course. But
and we have a patch this week, so
yep.
Do you know that for sure?
We know that for like I would say 95% likely.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they said that they were doing 2 weeks after release for that first balance change.
Yeah. And they got a Masters tour in like a week and a half. So
yeah, that was a direct communication early on saying, hey, this is when our window is going to be for this.
So probably notes Tuesday or teaser Tuesday, patch Thursday. Seems likely.
I wouldn't be surprised if they have it out on Tuesday.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it'll depend on if they, had something either late in the week last week that they're like, ooh, we might need to touch this.
Or if they saw something over the tournament.
Or if there's something to where they're just like, hey, there might be something in the tournament that, is going to impact it.
Yeah. It's tough because I don't know if there's like anything really lurking in the shadows right now.
Might have Paladin.
Oh, I didn't get to say it, but I played a bunch of Maiev Paladin. I did okay with it. It was like 50-50.
Did you play the weird Tito
It's
list or
fun.
the all one drops list?
No, I played the all one drops list.
That's what I figured. Yeah, I'm like assuming that you played the all one drops.
Well, that was the list. Those like on the front page of
AHS around,
Guru. Yeah. I didn't play the
Hey,
Tito list.
my weird list took advantage. There was a theme to it. It took advantage of hand buff. It fun.
But like your theory is strong there, which is I'm gonna play cards where the stats matter on them, right? Like I'm not doing hand buff, but like I'm not doing hand buff, right? Like they come into play with +3/+3, so like taunt, really good, lifesteal, really good. Or there's that 3/3. Were you playing the Paladin card, that 3/3 or 4-mana 3/3 taunt Divine Shield Paladin card?
Yep.
What the heck was that thing? You're playing that one? Like
the
that's
one?
like no. Dalaran Champion. 4-mana, 3/3, Divine Shield taunts. gets an extra +1/+1. Oh, I guess it's
Yeah.
just +1/+1. It's not
Yeah.
doubling it like
But
the
I'm also playing Bronze Redeemer, which is the 5 mana 3/3 at the end of your turn. Summon a dragon with stats equal to this minion.
Mhm.
So
I always
you
like
you can
that card.
you play that. It goes dormant. It comes out of dormant, and then you hit it with what do you call it? The well, you could hit it with
The
just about
blessing.
anything, but you hit it with the Spike Ridge Steed or something.
Mhm.
So then it comes out with the Maiev buff, and it's got the 2/6, and then it's got another minion that's the same thing. That's like a 9/12 or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah, yeah, I played a whole bunch of my Paladin. It seemed all right. I was like actually like tempted. I'm like, well, what can you do with like pure Paladin that isn't aura focused? Like, can you like just focus on the sentries and just like go kind of hog wild with that, like a pure like aggro? But it's like there's just not enough stuff on the low end, which is it's just a bummer.
Not maybe in the third set.
Yeah, it's like really close though.
And the bruisers, you get so much bruisers. Like the pure Paladin list with bruisers is so good. Like if you can find the right shell, like the stuff around it, because you get so much value from the bruisers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but it's interesting though, because I'm like, all right, the sentries are just kind of like nuts. Like that's the strong part here. Like all the aura stuff is kind of garbage except for Galvin himself.
Yeah, when I started the Maiev, I had initially had the auras. I took the pure shell with the auras, and I took some stuff out and added those. I was like, no, we don't even need these auras, and we don't need these end of turn things outside of Nozdormu.
What we really need is Chromatus. That's what we really need.
I'm telling you.
That's the answer.
It's won me games.
Yeah.
I have to say, playing and I saw that I think VS had Violet Treasure Gill on the list, but playing Aura without Treasure Gill, that card is much, much worse when you're not pulling it from your deck with a 1/2. Like that is significantly less fun to play even on 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy the difference there.
Like even in the attack druid, like I feel like I might be overkeeping it, but a lot of times it works out too well just because it smooths out the curve if I get the rest of the cards.
Well,
But
it's like mostly even, right? So you do want to do that jump to 4, I imagine.
Oh yeah, because then you get the jump to 4. You get the Ymir Drasil early and start doing that. And then it helps. It can help smooth out because of how many even cards. If you've got Treant in hand, then it smooths out getting that played on turn 3. Not having to rely on coin or rely on having 2 1-drops when you only run 4 total in the deck.
Yeah. Beatrix is such a cool card. I'm kind of wondering. One of the things I was wondering is like, how good would it be to put Brash Battlemaster in her? Which is the death rattle
was doing that
with recruits +1 attack, and so you just get like all your recruits become like 5/1s. Be kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Or there's also like you can put Bitterbloom Knight in there, and your abuse can go really, really, really quick. But unfortunately, like that deck is so dumpster. I don't know if that would save it. But it'd be kind of funny. Like you could definitely ramp those dragons up really fast if you've got 10 knights in there.
Anyway. The issue with that is I don't know if it's worth it because of Paladin having the 3 costs that imbue twice. The Battlecry Death
Well,
rattle.
but you want to like if you could get to 8 mana dragons by turn 6 and you're popping those out like effortlessly, that's a big deal. And then 10 is where it's at, right? Because you get your Briar Straw Drakes, you get your 10/10. I forget what the 10/10 that shoots a gigantic Pyroblast at minions. Like anything like 8+ is gravy, right? And I think you could get like you can get up to 8 pretty quickly, especially with the 3/4 that you're talking about. Yeah, because that's 3 of them right there. Yeah. The problem is that they nerfed. Yeah, the problem is that they nerfed the 1 mana to 2 mana because of pure Paladin or because of drunk Paladin crimes. Had nothing to do with Imbue.
Yeah. And, it feels like playing 2/3s for 4 turns in a row in this meta might be
Oh yeah, it's
a
suicide.
death sentence.
Yeah, I know. There's nothing really.
The payoff is
You're just
great.
dude. Especially after like Tripwire came out, I had a Kelos out. I had 25 health. They had no cards in hand. They drew Confront the Tolvir, and I was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Because it Earth and Roared the Kelos, and then 3 Tripwires and a whole bunch of rocks
Yep.
to the face, and yeah, it was. I was like, all right, yep, that's a card still at 4 mana. Should have been, my opinion, nerfed in a different way. Should just be recast all your 1-cost spells and minions. Just don't necessarily target the opponent. Make it risky.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, nope, I agree. I think when when it's next month, I think we're gonna try Dangerous variant with Beatrix, and we're gonna run just for the means that we're gonna run Laura Walker Cho.
I generated a Cho. I got Cho off of Mirdrasil against the Shaman, against the Mug Shaman today. I'm like, okay, pause. I got to figure this out now. I'm like, okay, what am I willing to give them? How much stuff are they going to give me that is going to be useful? Because I had like 6 cards in hand. I'm like, okay, let's pause and think here.
Oh, the other thing that's funny to put in Beatrix is the Outfitter. You see that one, Tito? You have 10 Grim Street
No.
Outfitters. Then you have a
No,
whole bunch of
I'm running
cards.
I'm running him in my card, but I mean in my thing. What if we just ran 10 Neophytes? Or
Yeah.
10 Creatures of Madness. That could be that's a lot of value right
Oh
there.
no, there you go. 10 Rock Skippers, and then you just pew 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 pew.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. Like if you could
Art.
like get some spell damage.
Because they have you can play the Geomancer,
Oh
the
my
3 mana
gosh.
Geomancer, right? That you
Yeah.
prep.
If Paladin becomes the best burn deck,
That'd be pretty funny.
with a dumb idea like that, I'd be
Right?
so
Like,
sad.
you could have each
I'd be
rock-
so sad.
You could collect so many rocks. That's so stupid.
No, I like it. I
that's
like
really
it.
All right, I'm gonna head out.
Yep.
Good talking to
Same.
you guys. Take it easy.
We'll talk to you later.
Yep,
And thank you everybody
see
for
ya.
hanging out. And we'll catch you next time.